Hello, you guys. Welcome back to Lily Reads. In today's video, we are here to do an April wrap-up. I'm here to talk about all of the books that I read in April. April was a terrible reading month for me. At the end of March, I started reading The Ninth House, and that got me in a really bad reading slump, and I wouldn't go on to read another book and finish it until like the 10th of the following month. I just kept opening up books and I just wasn't inspired. So at the end of the month, I had to do some catch up because I knew I wanted to do a wrap up. And there's so many books I want to get through. I deeply want to read a good chunk of the books that I own because every time I go and I pick a book off the books I haven't read yet, they're so good. Like, I really did buy some really good books and there's so many of them. And because I haven't read a lot of the books that I own, I don't want to buy more books, and so I love buying books. So it's to get back in my groove, I have been wanting to read books. So I had to catch up. So I read 10 books last month. First one was an audiobook. I read Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun. Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun is the third book in the Finley Donovan series. I really can't tell you much of what's going on in the third book because it's a third book, but I will pitch Finley Donovan for you. Finley Donovan is a struggling writer. She's trying to make ends meet. She just separated from her husband, and so she's trying to write a book so she can get an advance and so she can feed her kids. But one day she is writing the plot for her book and talking about the plot of the book with her agent, and someone thinks she's a pay for hire like killer, like she's like a bounty hunter or something. So someone hires her to kill their significant other, and that starts Finley Donovan Knocks Them Dead. And yeah, we go on through. Finley Donovan is killing it. Which one is which? Which one is which? Finley Donovan is killing it. Finley Donovan Knocks It Dead is the second one. And so now we have Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun. I really enjoyed Finley Donovan is Killing It. I did not enjoy Finley Donovan Knocks Him Dead. And I really did not enjoy Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun. The second and the third book, I enjoyed exactly the same. So Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun is what I read in April. This book was just not good to me. I think Finley Donovan as a series deeply needs a reset. It needs to reset the series because the whole mob stuff, the whole pay for hire stuff, the cop stuff, this stuff is so heavy on the cop stuff. And as a black person, you're going to have to spare me. Like, they go to a whole like cop camp and stuff, and I'm just like, I don't want to read this. I genuinely just do not want to read it. It's not interesting. It's not funny. And exactly what happens in the books before happens in the third book. Like, nothing new is happening. You're not shocked by any of the moments. It's almost following the exact same beats. You can almost damn near guess who's a part of the stuff. It's just not interesting. And what you come to love about the characters in the first book is absolutely grating by the third book. This book needs a reset and a time jump. That's what I'm going to say. If this book is going to go on for 3 more books. I think they announced 3 more books are coming in this series. If it's going to do that, we need to reset and time jump. Because boy, this off the rails. I think this series is completely off the rails. I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars. The next book that we have is Legends and Lattes. So this book is a book a lot of people have been reading, and I got my hands on it because I really do love the cover. And so in Legends and Lattes, we are following this creature. What would they call this creature? I don't know. But we're following this creature who has decided to hang up her sword. She has been a sword-wielding, killing type person, and she doesn't want to do that anymore. She wants to settle down and have a calm life. So she finds this town, and she's like, I am going to start a coffee shop. And this book is pretty much about this woman who everyone is afraid of, who everyone thinks is bloodthirsty and nasty, starting a coffee shop and all the things that come with starting a coffee shop. And basically, when she starts the coffee shop, she meets some friends along the way. There's a villain who tries to tear down her entire coffee shop, and they all have to band together to save the coffee shop. And that is Legends and Lattes. I'm going to give this book 3 out of 5 stars. It was fine. I have nothing against the people who deeply love this book. It just wasn't 100% for me. It was a little empty for me. I'm gonna be really honest with you. It was just a little bit empty for me. Yeah, it was cozy. Yeah, it was cute. But it was just really, it didn't really, I read it and was like, okay. Like, I wasn't offended by anything. It did what it set out to do, but I just need a little bit more punch. I need a little bit more. Like, maybe have it be funnier. Maybe have, like, the objective be a little bit more. It just felt a little, bare bones. That's what it is. It felt a little bare bones to me. So I am going to give this book 3 out of 5 stars. I thought I was going to get a hit with this one. But reading this book, did you catch it? Did you catch it? My reading challenge for the year. I'm doing the reading challenge for the year. And this is one of the books to the reading challenge that I was supposed to read in April. And I did. So check that off the list. The next thing that I read is Gideon the Ninth. Gideon the Ninth is a book I have been putting off reading, but I finally read it. In this book, we are following Gideon, who is like a servant of the Ninth House. And basically, the Ninth House, they do things with skeletons and bones and all this stuff. So Gideon is trying to escape, because that's like Gideon's thing. Gideon is always trying to escape the Ninth House. But then, like, the heir of the Ninth House comes to her and it's like, I need your help with something. So we're going to duel it out. And if I win the duel, you have to do this for me. But once you do this for me, you get your freedom. And but she's like, if I lose the duel to you, Gideon, then you don't have to do nothing for me. Gideon loses the duel, and Gideon has to, help the heir out. The heir wants to become like this powerful being. Basically, there's this competition to become like the most powerful being in all of the houses, basically. So everyone goes to the first house to compete in like these trials and do all of this stuff. And so Gideon is basically, with the heir. So when Gideon gets there, she realizes things are not what she thinks they are, and people are dropping dead. This book is a whole lot of fun. Will I be reading the sequel? I'm going to try my best to read the sequel. I'm not good at sequels, but this book was just a whole lot of fun. It was interesting. I honestly want to compare it to the Hunger Games. Like, it had a Hunger Games vibe to it. It had like a locked room murder mystery vibe going on with it. I enjoyed this book, so I am going to give this book 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, and the next book we have is the Lily Reads book club pick for April, which is The Neighbor Favorite. In this book, you have 2 characters who become pen pals, because the girl in this book, she has a book that she really likes, but like the author never made any more like sequels or anything like that. So she goes to the website that the author has and she tries to email the author, and lo and behold, the author writes back to her. So they become like pen pals like for like a good year. But then he like goes like falls off the face of the earth. So she's like, okay, what happened to him? Well, lo and behold, they become neighbors. And they don't realize they already know each other from the year that they spent riding with one another. So she enlists his help to help her find a date for her sister's wedding. And that is how their romance starts. I want to say something. The first 150 pages of this book is so good. It is so good. The emails that these 2 characters write back and forth to each other, I promise you, are the best 60 pages I have read this year. Like, romance at its best. It's so good. You guys know my favorite thing in romance books are text messages and emails. I love text messages and emails. I love seeing 2 characters write back and forth to each other. It's my favorite element in a book. And this book did not disappoint on that front. Now, the problem with that is there are 200 more pages after 150, and those are not good to me. They are just very boring. I didn't really care much about either character. I didn't like the way that the story was progressing. There were a lot of tropes in this book, and not my favorite tropes in the world. And the characters just kind of felt a little one note. We do learn a lot about our guy, his family, and I did like that aspect of it. But yeah, will I be reading the sequel that I think is going to come out? I think if I remember right from Christina Ford's Instagram, we will be getting another book in this world following one of the sisters. And yes, of course, I'll be reading that. I might make it a book club pick. I might not. We have had 2 Christina Ford's book club picks already, and I gave both of them 3 stars. But I'm giving this book 3 stars, 3.5, because I just love the beginning of this book. And I love the setup of this book. Christina Ford has such interesting ideas for books, but this one just didn't fully pan out for me. 3.5 out of 5 stars on that one. Let's move on to some thrillers that we read. I read The Other Miss. In this book, you are following a woman who has moved with her husband and child from Chicago because her husband's sister has died, and they are going to take in that his sister's daughter, so his niece, they're going to take in her, and they decide to move into the house that the sister was living in. But someone in the neighborhood they live in gets murdered, and they might be the reason why that person is murdered. They're trying to figure out why this person got murdered, and are the people we're following the suspects of the murder. I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars. This book, the whole book is boring. The whole book is boring. And so when you get the plot twist, you're just not gagged. I'm not gagged. It just didn't do anything for me. This book is forgettable to me. I won't even remember in a month what this book is actually about. It just wasn't good. The plot twist, I know probably people have issues with. I didn't mind the plot twist. I actually liked the plot twist. I'm gonna be honest with you, but it doesn't make up for the fact that I read 300 boring ass pages. What do we say about that? So this book was not for me. I think it's a Netflix movie. I think that's what the sticker says. I haven't looked to see. I don't know, but yeah, this wasn't for me. The next thing we have is The Good Girl. This book is about some girl being abducted. So we are following a guy who abducts this little girl, not little girl. He had abducted this girl, and we're trying to figure out what is going on. So you're kind of just thrown into this story where this guy abducted this girl. The mother is looking for the girl, and there's a police officer also looking for the girl. You're just thrown into the story. You don't have all the facts, and you're trying to piece everything together. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. This book, I said it in the video about this book. This book is a sign of the times type thing. If I would have looked to see when this book was published, I would have known exactly what the plot twist was, because a lot of the books that came out around this time are Gone Girl knockoffs, and I don't think this book evades that. I think this book is, very Gone Girl-esque, very, and so I don't mind the plot twist. I just don't think it was done the best, but it was fine. It was absolutely fine. Was I confused the first 100 pages? Yes, but once you get to it and you read the end, you're just okay, time well spent. 3 out of 5 stars. I did not mind it. The last book that I read in the thriller category was Just the Nicest Couple. This is the newest book from Mary Kubica. This book is about a couple who are, what the hell are they doing? They are pregnant. The wife is pregnant, and she constantly keeps looking out the window because she's just Jake is coming. Jake's outside. And he's what are you talking about? Jake is our friend. So we find out that Jake is the husband of the girl, the wife's, Jake is the husband of the wife's friend. And the friend comes to school because they work at a school together. It's my husband is missing. And that starts our story because the wife, she knows what happened to Jake, and Jake is missing, and the friend of her is Jake's wife. So they're all trying to figure out what the hell is going on and what happened to Jake and why this couple is a part of what happened to Jake. I am going to give this book 2 out of 5 stars. This book was nothingness. I don't think this book is clever. I don't think this book is interesting. It's not even a good time to read. It feels like a book that Mary Kubica might have phoned in. It's not even long, which actually adds to my idea that this book was kind of phoned in. It just has nothing interesting going on. There's no interesting plot twist. The plot twist that you do get is just okay, how am I supposed to feel about this? It just wasn't interesting. So I don't know if I'm gonna pick up anything else from Mary Kubica unless I hear other people just deeply love. The next book that I read was Eleanor Elephant is Completely Fine. This book came out, I think, in 2016, and everyone loved it. And so I finally read it. This was on the books I want to read or I have to unhaul. So I have read it. In this book, we are following Eleanor Elephant. She has gone through something really traumatic with her mother, and it has caused her to be really socially awkward, and she doesn't pick up on social cues, and she's a little bit of a recluse. And so in this book, you are basically seeing Eleanor Elephant get out of her own way and start to hang out with people and start to form human interactions, even though she herself doesn't realize she's not good at it, but she's just trying to overcome the trauma that happened to her as a child. And that's what this book is about a woman who is trying to be an adult, but she can't seem to get past the trauma that happened to her with her mother. And you're trying to see how that trauma affects all of her relationships around her, how it affects her work life, how it affects how she sees the world. I'm going to give this book 4 out of 5 stars is what I gave this book. Did I give this book 4 out of 5 stars? I think I gave it 3.5. This book has some really interesting things to say, I think, about trauma and how you deal with trauma. I really appreciated what this book did with that, but I did find the main character to be absolutely insufferable to read from, because the character in this book is like deeply fat phobic and a lot of other things. And it's like, I don't think what we learn from the character is worth having to read such like fat phobic language. And I get the point of it. I just don't know if, like, it's my opinion. Like, I'm allowed to feel uncomfortable about someone saying awful things about fat people. And so, like, I didn't enjoy that aspect of my reading. And I don't necessarily, I know why it's in the book. They were trying to show how her relationship with her mother causes her to see the entire world in a very judgmental way because she's so harshly judged by her mother. I get the point of it. Like, I'm not an idiot, but I just don't know if it was worth it for my reading experience. And also, some of the stuff in this book is so like obvious. Like, some of the lessons you're supposed to learn are so like obvious. For example, Eleanor Elephant is trying to get out into the world, so she starts wearing makeup, and it's like Eleanor Elephant is like, now that I go out in the world, I find myself having to be less of myself even more because like society wants me not to be like myself. And it's just like, duh, like we all like, some of the lessons learned in this book, I'm just like, are kind of obvious for the reader. And I'm just like, that's not saying anything clever. It's not saying anything new. And also, this millennial woman struggling with trauma is a section of literature I actually tried not to read. I just read it all. Like, I read it. It's kind of like how Kayla from Books and Lattes is like, I don't need to read any more cult books. That's how I feel about depressed woman, depressed millennial going through life. I don't need to read anything more from that. I think I've gotten everything I need to learn from like white, depressed millennial. It don't even have to be white at this point. Depressed millennial trying to get through life. I think I've learned everything I need to learn from that section of literature. And so this book, I think, does fall into that, but I think it does it a lot better than some of the other books that I've read. So My Year of Rest and Relaxation, Luster, and I think it does better than some of the other ones that I read, but so I am going to give it that, I guess. It had more interesting things to say. I did find myself being like, interesting. Especially, like I said, the trauma and depression and the therapy aspect of it. So I will give it that, but still. So yes, I am going to give Eleanor Elephant 3.5 out of 5 stars. It had some interesting things to say. I just overall didn't enjoy my reading experience. I didn't really like Eleanor Elephant as a character, and it didn't give me enough for me to just feel passionately about this book. The last 2 books, probably my 2 favorite books that I read all month, go to first From the Desk of Zoe Washington. So this is a middle grade book. And in this book, we are hearing from Zoe Washington, who decides that she is going to start writing letters to her biological father, who is in jail for murder. Her biological father went to jail before she was born for killing someone, and she finds out that her father has been sending her letters via the mail. And so she finally decides to write back to her father, and they start this pen pal relationship. And after talking to her father, she realized that her father might have been falsely convicted of murder, and she wants to see what she can do to get her father out of jail. So that's what the story pretty much is about. I know that sounds really deep and heavy for a middle grade book and for a girl that is in middle school, but I promise you, it's really not. I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars, pretty much 5 stars. This book has a way of tackling such hard topics, such traumatic topics, like a child dealing with the fact that her father is in jail for the rest of his life, but still allowing Zoe Washington to be a child, still allowing Zoe Washington to have so much innocence. And this book does read like a middle grade book. It never feels like Zoe Washington and too much is being put on Zoe Washington's shoulders. Zoe Washington has a father who raised her. She has a mother. She has a grandmother. She has friends. She has hobbies. She has things that she likes to do that keep her as a child. But even being a child, she has questions about stuff and she wants to fix the world. And oftentimes I hear when people are talking about, books and content for children, people like to say, oh, everything just needs to be lighthearted. Can Black people not get lighthearted stuff? But there's a balance there, there's a way that we can talk about things that children have questions about. There are children whose parents are in prison. There are children who have been introduced to the jail and the prison and the courts at a young age, and they deserve representation. They deserve to feel like there's hope. There's hope in life, and they can make a difference in life, and everything does not have to be so gloom and doom. And that's what I appreciate about these Zoe Washington books and her having a relationship with her father that was in jail. I just thought these books had so much heart. It was so intentional. It was so thoughtful. I like the Zoe Washington book. So then, of course, On Air with Zoe Washington came out a couple months ago, and I got my hands on it. I read it, and I gave this book 5 stars out of 5 stars flat. So it picks up where the last book left off. We have Zoe Washington, but Zoe Washington wants to do more. She realizes that she can help a lot of other kids who are dealing with the stuff that she is dealing with, and she can put a voice to what she experienced in From the Desk of Zoe Washington. So she decides to start a podcast, and through that, Zoe Washington finds even more purpose. And of course, she's still dealing with these tough and hard topics, but at the same time, she has her friends she's dealing with. 2 of her friends have a crush on each other. She feels like she might be left out. She feels like she might get abandoned. She has things going on with the father who actually raised her, stuff going on with that. She has her own dreams. She has her own aspirations. She wants to be a baker, all types of other stuff, but you still have the topic at the root of it, which is criminal justice reform. I love these books. More people should be talking about these books. These books are so good. This is what I want the youth. This is what I want the youth to be reading. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, these books are so good. They have a message to them. They have a purpose behind them, but they still are so much fun. And Zoe Washington is such a good character. What I love the most about this book is how Zoe Washington has so much ambition. So much ambition. It reminds me of me as a little kid, like feeling like you can take on the entire world. And what I love is that the people around her don't try to stifle that ambition. They don't try to suffocate that ambition out of her. They allow her to have her dreams. They allow her to think big and think huge. And what I love about the writer of this book is, even though some things might be a little outlandish and, everything seems to work out for Zoe Washington in the end, it needs to be that way because it inspires hope. It inspires little kids that they can honestly do anything. And, you can change the world, I guess. It sounds cheesy, but that's what little kids need. That's what people who read middle grade need. So I love the Zoe Washington series. If there's going to be more Zoe Washington books, I'm going to pick up more Zoe Washington books. I love them. But anyways, those are, including the Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun audiobook, these are the 10 books that I read in the month of April. Very snoozy, very snoozy. Zoe Washington was the clear standout. Yeah, what can I say? I will see you guys next month for my May wrap up, and hopefully it's better. Okay? I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one.